Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Go Pro Fantasy Show. I am the Fantasy Geek, your host and owner of 9 fantasy football franchises. Take that, Jerry Jones. I've lined up another fun interview this week, so we'll start there, and then we'll proceed to the PFFL Tier 1 recaps, and then I'll hit the other fantasy bite-sized bits to cap off the show. The Professional Fantasy Football League wouldn't be what it is today without the contributions of today's guests. He's the commissioner's right-hand man, and God forbid should the commish get bitten by a Singaporean Latrodectus Dolly spider, this guy would be left in charge of the whole operation. Here he is, the owner of Tier 1's Team Kizzle, Sam Kingery. Sam the man, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Dave? How you doing?
Doing all right. So, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a better show when we have guests, because I don't have to go on and on for 30 minutes.
Definitely.
So let's get right into your Week 6 Tier 1 matchup. You are the owner of Team Kizzle, who fizzled this week. You took on the previously 0-5 Illegal Touching. I say previously because you flat out let them beat you. They were ranked number 245 out of the 252 PFFL teams. So only 60 points, and last night Peyton saved you from a very ugly score. So what happened out there?
Oh man, I blew it this week. I mean, a lot of it I can't fault myself for. Jamal Charles, you gotta start him when he puts up 4 points. It's frustrating, and I don't understand why they don't get him more involved in the offense in those comeback games. But you got to start him. And that was one of my major blows. And then between that and then DeMarco Murray getting hurt after he was starting to put together a solid game, that really killed me. Rashard Mendenhall, I might have jumped the gun a little too quickly on him. I thought he was going to come out pretty strong this week, but I guess he got shaken up again too. So he put up 1. And then, just a prime example of you should go with your gut. I picked up Mike Williams off the waivers, and I was ready to play him, but against my better judgment, I popped in Jeremy Curley, and well, we know how that worked out. So it was a rough week. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, nothing you can do about those injuries. I had Mendenhall in both my PFFL leagues, and I started him too, so I felt the sting of that one. He looked good. They've been saying he looked good for a while now, so you never really know when a player comes back that soon off of an ACL injury, but his Achilles should be fine, and he'll probably play next week, so I think it might just be a 1-week hit there. All right, so hopefully your other PFFL squads fared better. You have other teams, right?
I do. I'm managing quite a few teams actually right now, a couple teams for some guys that, fell off radar once they signed up. And so I just kind of took over their teams for them. And those teams I'm kind of managing very lightly, just kind of swapping in players and trying to put up reasonable scores. But the main teams I'm managing are Team Kizzle, and then I got 2 Tier 3 teams that I'm involved in, which is the Solid Loafs and Meat Popsicle.
Oh, you're Meat Popsicle.
I am.
I think you defeated me early in the season.
I did.
Yeah, that must have. I'll have to get some revenge for that. So how are those teams doing? Where are they in the standings?
They're doing all right. I mean, I had a very specific strategy going into a lot of my drafts, and it was heavily involved around Peyton Manning. And for the most part, that was a good decision. I just had a lot of these guys that are really frustrating week to week. Jordy Nelson's another one I've had. And, I mean, you can't have more frustrating of a player than him when, he goes for 2 points 2 weeks in a row, and then he comes up and puts 3 touchdowns down and, scores 30 points or something like that.
Did you have him active?
I did not, no.
Yeah, I was going to say, against the Texans, typically a tough defense after those down weeks. I could see a lot of people benching him and then just, blowing up at the TV when they see him get 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was pretty frustrating. And, I mean, Jamal Charles in a lot of ways, even though he's been stellar the past few weeks, out of 6 weeks, his first 2 weeks he didn't put up much, and then he went on a little spree, and now this week he puts up 4 points. I've had a lot of players like that that are just real frustrating, and I hate to say it, but I guess bad player management on my behalf. I haven't been putting in the right guys in a lot of these teams. But I think all my teams are right around that 3-3, 2-3, that kind of spectrum. I'm definitely not having any weeks where I'm completely dominating, which is actually kind of my style. I've only not made the playoffs in one fantasy league in my entire fantasy playoff career.
Wow.
So, and I've played a lot of fantasy teams. So this is going to be it's going to be a challenging year in a lot of respects, especially this next week because there are a lot of buys going on. So
yeah,
I'm going to be doing some scrambling.
We'll get into that in a bit, but yeah, those inconsistent guys, they'll drive you nuts. And with Jamal Charles, I know that the Tampa Bay run defense has been pretty good this year, and with Brady Quinn taking snaps, I know Matt Castle hasn't really done well, but at least he was getting some respect from defenses. Brady Quinn, I'm not so sure. So I think that's probably the formula for Jamal Charles' demise this week. But he should still get a bulk of the carries. It'd be tempting to bench him in certain matchups, but he's still, he's still a big buck player. Yeah, you got to play him.
And the thing is, it's so frustrating to see a team like Kansas City where they have this player who's just clearly a playmaker. Get him involved in every way you can. You don't need to just run the ball up with him. You can get him out on these screen passes, little short passes out. Just get him in the open field, and to watch them, try and run it up the gut with him 10 times and then not have a lot of success and then not use him at all for the rest of the game. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, he should be a bigger part of the passing game, I think. But anyway, we'll move on. So, how did you meet the commissioner and get involved in the PFFL?
Okay, pretty interesting story. So, Paul, the commissioner, is actually an old boss of mine. When I lived in San Francisco, he was my boss when I worked for an email marketing company called Yes Mail, and he hired me pretty much straight out of college, and I worked for him for about 9 months before he ended up moving over to Singapore. And he's still with that company. I ended up moving down to Arizona and pursuing a different opportunity. But one of the things we'd always talk about when we were working was, fantasy football and our shared passion for that. And, some of the early PFFL ideas and stuff like that were discussed back then. And he actually started it his first year over there in Singapore, which was the first year of the PFFL. And I've been involved ever since. And this year, have a lot more free time and looking for new ways to get involved and new exciting things, and the PFFL is right down my alley. I couldn't wish for anything more than to play fantasy football for a living if that could eventually happen. So
Absolutely. I wish my boss was a fantasy football fan, but I think I don't even want to get into it. But I guarantee he's not watching football on Sundays. So let's see. Is managing the PFFL to the extent that you do, is that your full-time gig, or do you still have other stuff going on too?
Right now, it's a full-time gig. I'm trying to kind of help Paul out in directing some of the future stuff we're going to do. This year has definitely been a real eye-opening experience getting, all those players in there. We got 252 teams, and, we're going to probably try to launch some fantasy baseball here in the spring. And then, we got big plans for next year for the fantasy football side of it, because it's been such a learning experience, managing all these teams and having all these people wanting to put out content and be part of it, that, it's going to really open us up to having a lot more people in the league next year, hopefully a full Tier 4 and a full Tier 5.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, and it makes me wish that I had purchased more Tier 3 teams this year. But
yeah. Hey, I try to tell everybody, that was one of my, because, I did a fair amount of recruiting of friends and people to sign up for the PFFL, and that was definitely one of my main selling points. Is you look at some of these guys who just signed up for a Tier 2 team last year, they may only, they paid $20 or something, and now they're in a situation where they can win, $2,000 off a $20 investment. It could be a pretty similar deal for next year, and for those Tier 3 guys who managed to sign up.
Yeah, it's a great deal. So you mentioned the baseball possibility, or the fact that you're working on launching that. I hope that didn't steal the thunder of the commissioner, who wanted to make a grand announcement later on in the year, but I don't know if he might have another announcement, but I'm guessing that was probably something that he was going to want to come back.
Well, I hope I didn't get myself in trouble there. But I won't reveal anything more than it's in the works, and I'll let Paul pull the grand curtain off the thing. But it's going to be pretty exciting, and I think hopefully everybody who's been playing PFFL this year will sign up and get involved. I myself have never played fantasy baseball before, so it's going to be a learning experience. But my San Francisco Giants are doing pretty well right now, so I've definitely gotten into baseball this year quite a bit more.
Yeah, well, we won't mention how my Red Sox fared this year, but I will say, as the fantasy geek, I have geekiness in all sports, and baseball, I specifically look forward to this format because I think there's less luck involved in fantasy baseball, and so I think more skill will come out, and I like that. I like that challenge, and I think it benefits the top players. So that's definitely good. That's what the PFFL is after.
Totally.
All right, so we did mention earlier there are 6 teams on bye. Let's get into a little strategy here. We've got Atlanta, Denver, Kansas City, Miami, Philadelphia, and San Diego all on byes in Week 6. So there will be some hurting fantasy lineups heading into the week. How are your bench situations, and are you looking to pick up 1 week fill-ins, or do you usually cover yourself ahead of time? I mean, I know it's a good strategy to pick up players the previous week when you know you're going to have a bye that following week, because then you don't have to worry about spending money. You can just get people for free. So, how do you approach that, and without tipping your hand too much, who are some guys that you're looking at?
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing about this free auction budget is that I feel like there's no way I'm ever going to use that full $200 throughout the season. So definitely my strategy is based around heavily picking up some of the top players right around bye weeks. And this week for me is especially bad because, Peyton Manning obviously had a lot riding on him, and he's on bye, and then Jamal Charles is on bye. I got a couple Falcons wide receivers in some other leagues and kicker. So I'm gonna be doing quite a few moves on the free agent board this week for sure. Some guys I like. I guess I can talk about the ones that I'm not going to be able to pick up in Tier 1. I really like William Powell on the Cardinals. I watched that game. I think he's got a pretty legitimate shot at breaking out and being a pretty solid running back. Same could be said for Alex Green, too, even though I don't like having a running back on the Green Bay Packers. I think that there's a pretty good shot he's going to get some good end zone carries here in the next couple of weeks. But he's got a much tougher schedule. Or actually, William Powell has the really tough schedule. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys fare against some pretty tough teams. I think Powell's I forget who he's playing this week, but I know he's playing the Niners the week after. So, and I'm going to go to that game live, so that'll be pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, that sounds like it would be. You're down there near Glendale, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm about 20 minutes away from the stadium, and me and my buddies are all diehard Niners fans, so I'm probably going to have 4 or 5 buddies coming down from San Francisco, and we got tickets for that Monday night football game, 49ers Cardinals, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I picked up William Powell in a couple leagues last week. That offensive line is a mess, and now that they go from, it looks like Cobb is out for a while. A coworker of mine sent me a description of his injury, and there was mention of ribs detaching from sternum, so that certainly doesn't sound good. So I don't know. Skelton seems semi-qualified to run that offense. I mean, he has had a decent track record throwing the ball to Fitzgerald, and so we'll see. But, yeah, that offensive line's a mess, and like you said, Green Bay running backs just never seem to find the end zone unless it's like John Kuhn. But, at this stage, especially with the buys, you just have to grab guys who are getting carries, and those guys are good options for getting.
Yeah, that's kind of my free agent strategy in general is, picking up those guys who have an opportunity to break out one week and kind of riding them out for a week or two and then rotating more in. And, there's a couple guys I did that with at the beginning of the season with, David Wilson and Ryan Williams. And those guys never developed, but I always kind of keep those potential breakout players. I mean, obviously this week it looks like Felix Jones is going to be pretty much the top pickup, even though I don't like him. I think he's not going to do much with the opportunity, but I'd like to see DeMarco Murray get on the field, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be very positive.
No, he's probably out 1 or 2 weeks. And I'm kind of with you on Jones. I don't love him, but he'll go for a pretty penny this week. But yeah, I'm a little surprised in the whole free agent acquisition budget thing that PFFL teams aren't really spending all that much. I would have thought that a larger portion of those budgets would be used up by now, but I guess this is the time to use it if you've got it. So get out there and make moves. You don't need to save your money. Like I said before, it doesn't go into your pocket at the end of the year. So
there's one other thing I'd point out there too. A lot of guys, I think part of it's people learning the website and learning how to do it the right way.
Yeah.
But another piece of it that I'm not sure how many people know, and we tried to make it pretty known, but it's pretty important for the free auction budget, is that when you make a bid on a player, you can bid $100 on a player if you really want him, and the only money you'll be charged is what the highest bid would need to be. So if the second highest guy, bid $24, it'll charge you $25. It's not going to charge you that difference of $75. So there's no, don't be shy with your bids. If you see a guy you really like, you got to go after him aggressively, especially getting into this part of the season when, a lot of us have, I probably have $160 in my budget still.
Yeah, that rule came in handy for me in week 1 when I acquired Alfred Morris, and I bid, I don't know, $50-$60 on him, and I only had to pay like 10 or 11 because there were no other bids, and I was a little surprised by that, but I'll take it.
Well, that was a good pick. That's
yeah,
sure.
It's worked out well for me so far. All right, so let's see. Colin Mills was our guest last week, and he is the owner of the number 1 PFFL team right now, the Tier 1 Imports. He came in, laid down some smack for the rest of the league. He backed it up by winning again to stay undefeated. Now I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell Tier 1 and Colin and the rest of the guys how you're about to flip the script and go on a winning streak. So give us your best Smack Tracker quote.
Smack Tracker quote, okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not your traditional Smack Track talker, but I'll tell you, I do spend a lot of time looking at fantasy football. And the reality is the past 2 weeks I've taken down undefeated teams before this week. I lost this week. Like I said, I can't really hold it against myself too much. My players just didn't perform. I got some good matchups coming up the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I'm in a pretty tough division in Tier 1. The other 2 divisions, there's quite a bit more room to climb the ladder. But I should have beaten Colin when we played. He just got lucky. There's not much more you can say about it. He didn't even have that good of a game. I benched Jamal Charles, which so far has been the worst decision of my PFFL Tier 1 moves this year. So, I think he's going to have a good season. I think he's looking like he could win our division, but there's still a slot in there for me, wild card or whatnot. So, I'm definitely looking to come back. This week's going to be my biggest challenge with all my buys. And then after that, we do have a 13-week season, so there's still plenty of time for me to go on a winning spree and make my mark. And I'd just like to remind him that I did come in second place last year, so just be wary, be ready for Team Kizzle to start climbing the ladder.
There you go. You only missed the playoffs once in your entire fantasy football career. That is impressive stuff. So those guys should take note and fear you. All right. So you, like we had said earlier, run the site and put up a lot of the content. Do you want to do any plugging of the articles or other podcasts while you got this opportunity?
Sure. Yeah. You, Dave, and John Hampton and Josh Martin, you guys have really been putting out just great content. It's kind of tough to get exposure to some of it, but I think, if people are listening now, what I like to do, and this is just a great way to listen to the shows, is I put on the shows while I'm adjusting my lineup and checking out my free agents, and I just have it playing in the background. And, there's a lot of expertise between you three. John's kind of got the golden voice, but not so much the football knowledge. So I'm actually writing a lot of the scripts for John's show and kind of in the back end of that the PFFL Live part of the stuff. But between you and Josh, you guys are experts, and it's a really good way to stay up to date. Personally, I read enough stuff about fantasy football that to know that most of the week-to-week information is going to come out in a variety of different resources, and I'd much rather listen to it and have it told to me by one of you guys than spend an hour reading different ESPN blogs and doing all that, and doing all the research when you guys are pretty good at uncovering those stones and showing people what's going on in the week. So
yeah.
I definitely check out. We got the GoPro show, which we're on right now, which is great every Tuesday, and then got PFFL Live on Thursday for the matchup previews, Saturday for breaking news and injury updates, and then Josh Martin's got a ton of shows. He's got his weekly waiver ads, which is really a great show. He's got Stardom Situm, which is always helpful on Saturday. His weekly waiver ads on Wednesday, start-em, sit-ems on Friday evening, Saturday morning, and then he's doing a couple post-recap shows, which are kind of coming as they're ready. And then we got those, Colin and Joseph doing the power rankings review, which is really great too. Just all sorts of great content. We're always looking for people who want to, get more involved and do another show, do their own version, even if it's just a one-off. The whole point of the PFFL is to get our community involved, really build a community of people who love fantasy football and who can find all their stuff in one spot. So it's been pretty exciting doing this whole thing in general.
Yeah, and that spot is the-pffl.com, and then you guys also have a channel on YouTube, right? You just basically go to YouTube and search PFFL, and you'll find that channel, right?
Totally, yeah. And if for anybody listening out there, subscribe too. We need to get, it's interesting. We're getting quite a few views from people, embedded in the website and on our Facebook and stuff. But our subscribers count is pretty low on the YouTube page. So get on there and subscribe, and then every time you get onto YouTube, our videos will pop right up there in your top, so you can stay informed.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck. You're doing great things over there at the PFL. I always got to say the PFFL.com. So keep it up, and good luck getting into those Tier 1 playoffs.
Thanks a lot, Fantasy Geek. Take care.
All right. Later, Sam.
Bye.
All right, so you heard about Sam's Tier 1 game. Now we're going to go into the others real quick because the interview ran long. I always like when they run long, though, because that's the real meat of this show. So, Tier 1, Week 6. We're going to jump right into it. Daewoo Lanos, 107. Jurassic Pork, 98. Daewoo was running on all cylinders in Week 6. Everybody but Fred Davis hit double digits, with A.J. Green leading the way with a 25 spot. Pork had a shot to pull off the upset on Monday night, but Phil Rivers was too busy imploding. Really ugly there. Confused Octopi, 96. Germaniacs, 93. And the barn burner of the week, the Confused Ones, had a moment of clarity when Demaryius Thomas grabbed the game-winning touchdown in the Monday night game. Bold move, benching Romo for the Germaniacs. Ponder, you have to give him a fist pound for 21 points, but it wasn't quite enough. Teddy KGB, 88. Mr. Miyagi's Dojo, 82. Early on, it was all Miyagi with solid contributions from Fitz and Vinnie Jackson. But then Teddy swept the leg in the late games. Aaron Rodgers, season high for a quarterback, 38 points. Doomed to the dojo and got KGB to win number 5. Insanity Escape, 81. Seattle Seahanks, 76. Insanity Escape must have gone insane when Decker tripped over himself to blow a sure touchdown. Looked like his shoelaces must have been untied or something. But he got back in the end zone later in the game and helped Insanity escape defeat. The Seahanks didn't get much from the big three, and their hole patchers, Stevens, Howling, and Hawkins, were pretty ineffective. So they keep tumbling down in the rankings. Tier 1 Imports, 79. Renton Rain Dogs, 60. The cheap win of the week goes to the number 1 team in all the land. Hey, it's better to be lucky than good. RG3 came up huge, and Denarius Moore was a nice spot start for Colin. No one topped 13 points for the drenched Rain Dogs. All right, jumping into the poll. Let's see the voters' take. Number 12, Illegal Touching, 1 and 5. The good news is you finally won. The bad news is you're still number 12. Number 11, Jurassic Pork, 0 and 6. You know Philip Rivers' throwing motion kind of makes it look like he has T-Rex arms. Number 10, Mr. Miyagi's Dojo, 1 and 5. To quote Bobby from The Cobra Kai, you're dead meat. Number 9, Insanity Escape, 2 and 4. The double tight end set worked for you, but it's not recommended. Number 8, Renton Rain Dogs, 3 and 3. That's Scott All or Nothing Chandler for you. 1 week, 18 points. Next week, 0. Number 7, Seattle Seahanks, 3-3. Ever since the commissioner called you out on the podcast, it's been all losing. That's a little weird. Number 6, Germaniacs, 3-3. Stupid schedule. You would have beaten 8 of the other Tier 1 teams this week. Number 5, Team Kizzle. You heard him here, 3-3. He explained exactly why his team did not do well, including starting Jeremy Curley over Mike Williams, which proved to be costly. Number 4, De Wulanos, 4-2. Finally took it to the shop for a tune-up and looked really good. Number 3, Confused Octopi, 5-1. I should bump you back a spot for carrying 2 kickers and for starting an injured Donald Brown. But you slide by this week, still staying at number 3. Moving up a spot, actually. Number 2, Teddy KGB, 5-1. Aaron Rodgers is definitely an ace up your sleeve this week. And then, drum roll, please. Tier 1 imports, no big surprise there, 6-0. But I do have a little bone to pick. You gave owners crap for starting bye players in last week's show. When we had Colin on, he definitely was calling out the other owners who were starting players on bye. Now, this week, he started an inactive Pierre Garçon. So, how dare you? All right, on to the news, notes, and nonsense really quickly. More NFL craziness in Week 6. The 49ers, Patriots, and Texans all lose, and the Falcons almost join them. Viva parity. The Broncos come back from a 24-point deficit. Well, when you fall behind by 3 touchdowns every week, you're bound to come back at least once. Aaron Rodgers throws for 6 touchdowns. Sorry, Greg Jennings owners, you missed every one of them. Let's see who lit up the scoreboard in the all-work team. So the aforementioned Aaron Rodgers, he edged RG3 out by a single point, but those 6 touchdowns were huge for his owners. Our running back 1, Sean Green. Where did that come from? No idea. Your second running back, Ray Rice, just another strong week from Ray, being Ray. And as previously also discussed, Jordy Nelson is one of your wide receivers, making up for a slow start in a hurry, 3 touchdowns after previously stumbling in a couple weeks, driving his owners crazy. A.J. Green is your other wide receiver. He found plenty of green space in the Browns secondary this week. Flex is Des Bryant, finally showing signs of life. He scored 21 fantasy points and yet still managed to somehow be the real-life GOAT for dropping a key 2-point conversion at the end of the game. And tight end, yes, here he is, Antonio Gates. I've been whining about him all season, but I did have him active for his big game, so at least I'm not completely kicking myself. Hopefully there's more of that to come. And your kicker, Rob Baronis, apparently he took exception to being on last week's all-jerk team as the kicker there, so this week he came with 14 points. Let's go into the all-jerk team now, real quick.
Well, the church store called, and they're running out of you.
Leading the way, quarterback, I just got to give it to Phil Rivers. He did throw a couple touchdown passes, but, after getting ahead, he really cost the Tier 1 team. He certainly cost, but he also cost several other teams with a terrible second half. Your running back, Michael Turner. Yeah, the Raiders' defense is really tough when they're on the road. No excuse for those 3 points that he tallied. Stephen Ridley, also 3 points. He took a big back seat to Danny Woodhead this week. You never know what you're going to get with the Patriots running game. Wide receiver, Antonio Brown. So much for that Thursday night head start. I thought Brown would have a big game and get fantasy owners off ahead of their opponents, but didn't really work out with his 2 points. Dwayne Bowe, he basically just got Brady Quinned. Your flex player is a receiver, Miles Austin. He basically watched Des Bryant have a good game. Tight end, yes, we have mentioned him before. Scott Chandler, he's basically a human roller coaster. And then your kicker, you don't see this name on the jerk list very often, David Akers, and that's why you don't spend $4 on a kicker. All right, let's do a quick inked and axed. chances are you're going to need some bye week fill-ins with the 6 byes. So, quarterback, Brandon Smokin' Weed. And don't look now, but the 29-year-old rookie has thrown for over 225 yards in 5 straight. Running back, Montario from easiest to hardest. Trent Richardson isn't exactly a model of health, and Monty cemented himself as the clear handcuff in Week 6. Running back, Darrell Filthy Richardson. He's been on this list before, but he's simply been more effective than Steven Jackson lately. All right, running back, another running back for you. How many Felix Jones does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Let me see that. Let me get another take on that one.
Someone's a bigger idiot than me.
Screwed it up. How many Felix does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop Jones? All right, I know it's a stretch, but what do you do with Felix Jones? Anyway, he's back. I'm not really eager to spend big bucks to get him, as is Sam, as we discussed earlier. But he will get touches, and in Week 7, that's going to be huge. Wide receiver Josh Flash Gordon. I mentioned him last week. I picked him up last week. I'm mentioning him again because I think I was in the minority. Not many people picked him up, but he had followed up his breakout game with another really good game. So not a lot of targets, catches, but he's getting deep. Wide receiver Brandon Gibson with Amendola out. Sam Bradford is forced to find a new favorite target. So far, this looks like the guy. And then at tight end, Brandon Myers. Go ahead and laugh, but Myers has been a lock for 50 receiving yards this year. Can't say that about guys like Gates and Finley. So, if you're stretched thin at tight end, Myers is a good one-week fix for you. And here are some guys you can kick to the curb. Javid's simply not the best. Oh well, it was worth a shot. I thought he was going to pass those tests, but he hasn't been cleared by doctors, and does not look like he's going to play at all this year. Jackie, you sunk my battleship. Predictably lost the San Diego running back battle. And then Martellus the Truth Bennett. He could pick it up again, but right now he's droppable. Just too many bad weeks in a row. But I wouldn't swear him off completely. All right, bumps, bruises, strains, and sprains. With all the buys, these guys definitely add some insult to injury. Rashard Mendenhall and Isaac Redmond. Mendenhall's Achilles should be okay. Redmond's ankle is a little bit more of a question mark. DeMarco Murray could miss a couple of games. And then Pierre Garçon, his troublesome foot kept him out of action. Not sure what that's going to do going forward. If you own him, you're going to want to read the news blurbs week to week because his foot is just not healing up completely. All right. Let's finish off the show with the 2-minute drill really quickly. We're short on time, so I've got just one rant. The Patriots, they're my favorite team. I've been following them my whole life, but it's time to stop giving Bill Belichick a free pass. He hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2005, and this season clock management has been atrocious. In Week 2, they chewed up 40 seconds to give Gostkowski a 42-yard attempt, which he missed. That was against Arizona. They could have tried to get closer and get him, a chip shot or, at least something in the, 30-yard range, and that probably would have improved his chances. In Week 3, the Patriots ate 2 timeouts and just let Baltimore run down the clock before their game-winning 27-yard field goal. But if you take those timeouts and you make Baltimore take a knee, you push them back another 5 yards. Couldn't hurt. And if you recall, that field goal went over the upright. And it might not have been good from a yard back, let alone 5 yards back. I know it's a stretch, but I'm rolling here. Then against the Seahawks, Tom intentional grounding Brady, butchers the end of the half drive with 6 seconds left. He feels some pressure, throws it out of the back of the end zone, but he was in the pocket, so he gets flagged, and thus a 10-second run-off. I don't know why they risked it. They should just take the 3 points at that time with 6 seconds left. It turns out it would have made a huge difference in how the second half played out. I'm not saying fire Belichick, of course. He's still one of the top coaches in the NFL, but he just needs to refocus and sharpen his time management tactics. All right, that'll put an exclamation point on the show. Make sure you head over to the-PFFL.com for more podcasts by John Hampton and Josh Martin, plus all the great articles that Sam Kingery is coordinating over there. thanks to Sam for joining us. Maybe the GoPro mojo will help Team Kizzle score more than 60 points next week. But until next week, kick some ass in Week 7. Geek out.